and bigger one will pass. So there it is like a particle behavior. Therefore we call it as soliton. So two solitons. You can think of multi-solitons. That's there. But my purpose is to only compute such one soliton solutions for called as lax pair. Better myself and Chandrali will discuss about it later. It's not suitable here. There is another transformation called Mura transformation. Okay. That is the second line. U equals V squared plus dou V by dou X. When you just apply it to KdV equation, it is a third order equation. You can observe. The first term is called the time evolution term. Second one is U into dou U by dou X is called convection. That's what our Kiran sir said, when you heat a water, suddenly you will get some bubbles and then whole, it's called convective currents flowing inside your water, boiling water. So that's called convective effect. And the third one is called diffusion. So it disperses. It can't, but in a water vessel it cannot disperse. The place is very limited. Whereas if you see the seashore, the sea water is also heated. We don't know, but we can't feel it. But otherwise the cloud cannot form. Therefore, heat current is there. Time evolution you can see because the waves are moving and they are also dispersing. They together is called as this Korteg de Vries. Both are German mathematicians. So Korteg is one mathematician, de Vries is another mathematician. We call it as shortly KdV equation. So this will split into same equation, you can observe. Therefore it is called as modified KdV equation. Change okay. So we want to discuss about what is called as this traveling wave solution. So it is a transformation which converts PDE into ODE, ordinary differential equation. So Adomian decomposition series, there are standard books on that. So we want to apply that to our equation. So we have generalized that KdV equation by introducing these three parameters alpha, beta and k, where k is this 2 times square. C is your velocity of the wave given by u of x minus ct. Okay. So we don't use epsilon here. So in the usual perturbation expansion we make use of epsilon. But Adomian suggests that you don't have to bother about such expansion. So every time you think that you are going to converge it, or maybe it is ultimately finite only, or at the most it is a convergent series. So when you substitute it, it reduces into this system of equations, and you have to choose the solutions. Instead of x squared, x cube, we will be selecting this e to the power of minus kz, e to the power of minus 2kz, like that. So we will be using the powers of exponential with negative powers. So therefore you are ensured of boundedness. Like that. So you can just do all those tricks. Very simple high school tricks. So you can simplify and see that you can express your am plus 1 easily, and it becomes a geometric series. You can apply, suppose you don't want to sum as it is, you can apply what are called Pade approximation, so that you can reduce it into secant hyperbolic square. I'll just leave you that to you, how an exponential function will lead to secant hyperbolic. What is cos hyperbolic? Anybody? E to the power of x plus e to the power of minus x divided by 2. Okay. So secant means 1 over 2 divided by e power x plus e power minus x. So that idea is there. That's all. I have squared it. Okay. So next I will apply it to mkdv equation. So suppose you subject to that traveling wave, it reduces to an ordinary differential equation. So it is a nonlinear equation. You can see that. In fact, if the derivative is first order, it would have been a Bernoulli equation. But it is not. It is a second order. The derivative term is second order. So you can apply this Adomian technique, the series technique. So in the usual perturbation, we take level of U0 and U1. It will automatically take you to Un plus 1 by induction. And it is a type of convolution, you can see. A discrete convolution is there, finite convolution. So easily it reduces to a secant hyperbolic again. So we have done computation here for some values of A, alpha, beta and C, and we get the waves like this. This technique you can also apply it for coupled equations. So somehow I used to tell madam to work on this coupled equation. She is expert in it. She works on this predator-prey models, for instance. So if you can also mix KDV and MKDV, that is done by Hirota and Satsuma. So if you just put B is equal to 0 and A equals 1, minus 1, it becomes KDV equation. And if you say U and V, if you relate properly, it becomes an MKDV equation. So it's a coupled equation. I don't know, for some tension, I have prepared 60 slides. So most of them I will skip, don't worry. So what are this? This is the final solution I want. U should be secant hyperbolic, V should be secant, okay? So for that, okay. So I am using usual perturbation technique, not Adomian. So I will be transforming U. So this again reduces to geometric series, provided you choose exponentials in the power of negative powers, of course. So you can notice that I have used U0 to be A0 into e to the power of twice. So power. V0 I have selected as alpha minus c cube into t, cx minus c cube into t. So I can easily write it in this form, U0 and U1, U0 and V0. Next, I will just keep. So you can see that U1 will be a squared into 2c into e to the power of 4 times. Instead of 2 times, it will be 4 times. Instead of 1 time, it will be 3 times. Okay. So one will be in the even power, the another one will be odd powers. That's the beauty of it. So you come to the next level. So you will get e to the power of 6 and the other one is e to the power of 5. So you can put all of them together and do some induction technique. So again you have to do some high school mathematics. So you will finally get into that form, k squared, sigma k squared and sigma k. So you will get Vn to be like this. So All right. Yes. So I will be getting and sum them. Sum you will get a neat exponential form. If you differentiate partially, you will get the secant hyperbolic square. And for the other one, we get like this. So the final solution is this. And both of them I have merged in the same graph, U and V. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any question? One or two? Okay, no questions. So,
Oh, thank you.
let us thank the Rangarajan sir for his nice talk. Thank you very much, sir.
Sorry.
So I request Ramana sir to hand over the memento as a token of gratitude.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Photo. Oh, please. One nimsha, Bunny Buddhi. You can hold it. Madam, leave it for hold it. ಬನ್ನಿ 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 ಸರ್ ಬನ್ನಿ ಈ ಕಡೆ ಬನ್ನಿ ಸರ್ ನೀವಿಲ್ಲದೆ ಹೀಗೆ
Okay. Welcome you all for this next lecture. The speaker is Dr. Veena Matat from the University of Mysore. She did her MSc and MPhil, PGDCA, B.Ed, PhD from our university, that is Karnataka University, Dharwad. Currently, she is working as a professor in the Department of Mathematics, Mysore University. Her main area of research is graph theory. She has guided the PhD students, gave invited talks in the various conferences, published more than 75 research articles. I take this opportunity to welcome you, ma'am, and I request ma'am to give the lecture.
Thank you, Professor Ramane, for the introduction. At the outset, let me thank the organizers of this conference for providing me an opportunity to come over here and discuss with you some of the recent concept that we have introduced. My intuition here is to reach to you the concept of eccentric weight of graphs, and I just define it and I'll just calculate it for some standard graphs and two graph operations. So I'm just going to deal with the elementary results regarding this. So here I am considering the simple graphs which are connected. Let us take that they have n vertices and m edges. So you take any two vertices, the distance between those two vertices is the length of the shortest path between them. Okay, so that is called as the distance between those two vertices. And eccentricity of a vertex is the maximum distance from that vertex to any other vertex of the graph. And this concept of eccentricity is the probably one of the first distance based parameter introduced in the graph theory, and the mathematical definition is that it is the maximum distance from that vertex to any other vertex of the graph here. And if I consider graph, and if the eccentricity of a vertex is equal to the radius of the graph, then we say that that vertex is a central vertex. And if I consider the set of all central vertices of the graph, that gives us the center of the graph, and it is denoted by z of z here. Okay. So in this graph, we have 10 vertices. So if I consider the vertex V1, the distance between V1 and V2 is 1, V1 and V3 is 2, and V1 and V4 is 3. Like that we can calculate the distance between the vertex V1 and the rest all vertices of the graph, and you can see that the distance between V1 and V4 is 4. Okay, in the previous graphs, you can see that the vertices do not have the same eccentricities, right? They differ. So it is not a self-centered graph. But if all vertices have the same eccentricities, then we say that that is a self-centered graph. Okay. So now we say that the vertex U is an eccentric vertex of another vertex, say V, if the distance between them U and V is equal to eccentricity of V here. Okay. So for example, if I consider this graph, right? So consider the vertex V1 and consider the vertex, I'll take the vertex V2 here and consider the vertex V10. Okay. So if V10, if I take the distance between V10 to V2, right? What is the distance between V10 to V2? It is 3, right? The path goes like this. V10, V9, V6, V2. Okay, the distance is 3 here. And what is the eccentricity of V2? It is equal to 3. So I can say that V2 is an eccentric vertex of V10 here. Okay, so we say that U is an eccentric vertex of V if the distance between U and V is equal to eccentricity of V here. Okay. But it is not the symmetric property, because as I said, V10 is eccentric vertex of V2, but V2 is not an eccentric vertex of V10, because the distance between V2 and V10 is not equal to eccentricity of V10. Distance is 3, whereas the eccentricity of V10 is 4 here. So this property is not the symmetric property here. Okay. Now, if U is an eccentric vertex of V, then by the definition, the distance between U and V is equal to eccentricity of V. Then the eccentricity of V will always be less than or equal to the x of, denoted by EW of G. It is defined as the summation of f of x for all edge x belonging to E. And what is this f? It is a map from the edge set to the set having elements 0 and 1. Okay, and how is it defined? It is defined as f of uv is equal to the modulus of the difference between the eccentricities of those two vertices. Okay, so if I consider the edge uv, then what is f of uv edge? It is modulus of eccentricity of u minus eccentricity of v. It is defined for all edges of G, and we take the summation of these values to get the eccentric weight of the graph here. Okay, so if I consider this graph, you can consider the edge v1, v2. Then the function value for that will be 3 minus 4 modulus. Okay, that is equal to 1 here. So like that we calculate the function value for all the edges of this graph, and we sum up to get its eccentric weight as equal to 9 here. Okay, so we know that the eccentricity of any two adjacent vertices, they differ at most by 1. Okay, so either the difference is 0 or the difference is 1 here. So in that way, if we have the difference is equal to 0 for all the vertices of the graph, then automatically the eccentric weight has to be equal to 0 here. And if the difference is 1 for every edge of the graph, then the is equal to 0 if and only if it is a self-centered graph. Self-centered graph, as I said, all vertices have the same eccentricity. So when all vertices have the same eccentricity, when I consider the edge, the modulus of eccentricity of u minus eccentricity of v is going to be 0 for every edge. So the sum is going to be equal to 0. So we have its value is equal to 0. And again, if its value is equal to 0, then each function value for each of the edges must be equal to 0. When is that possible? When both the end vertices of that edge have the same eccentricity. So it will be a self-eccentric graph here. Okay. So this is the result. This is what I said, the proof of it. Okay. Now let us consider the graph G, and we'll remove a vertex from that graph, right? So when I remove that vertex, what will happen? The vertex will not go alone. It will go along with all the edges incident with that. Okay? When I remove an edge alone goes away from the graph. But when I remove a vertex from the graph, the vertex together with all the edges incident with that will be removed from the graph here. Okay. So what happens if G is a self-centered graph, right? Then the eccentric weight of that graph is 0, right? When I remove a vertex from that graph, any vertex from that graph, The possibility is that the remaining graph is again a self-centered graph, in which case the eccentric weight will be equal to 0 once again, or the resulting graph may not be a self-centered graph, in which case the eccentric weight will not be equal to 0, and it is not. So vertex at V1, V2, Vn, and eccentricity of every vertex in an even cycle is n by 2, and eccentricity of every vertex in an odd cycle is n minus 1 by 2. Anyway, whether it is n by 2 or n minus 2, this graph is a self-centered graph, and we know that self-centered graph have eccentric weight is equal to 0. So the eccentric weight of cycle is 0. When I consider the path, okay, again consider the path Pn, okay, if it has odd number of vertices, if n is odd, it will have even number of edges, okay. So when n is even, it will have odd number of edges here, okay. So what happens here is, when I have odd number of edges, start from this side and start from this side, okay, the values of the function will be equal to 1, 1, 1, because eccentricities goes on decreasing from here to here and here to here, okay. When I come to the central vertices, eccentricity of the one central vertex is n by 2, eccentricity of the other central vertex is also n by 2 here. So the difference is 0, okay. So in this case, it will be twice 1 plus 1 plus 1. How many times? N by 2 minus 1 times plus 0, which stands for that edge between the central vertices here. So the eccentric weight of the path is equal to n minus 2 here. Similarly, when I consider n odd, then the path has even number of edges, okay. So even number of edges, I can break it into two parts, okay, so that the function values of all the edges of left hand side plus s, because here we can consider two types of vertices actually. The central vertices, what is the eccentricity of both the central vertices? It is equal to 2, okay. If u is the central vertex of one star graph, its eccentricity will be equal to 2, because this distance from the other pendant vertices of the other star graph is equal to 2, and that is the maximum, okay. Similarly with the other central vertex V here, so eccentricity of u, eccentricity of V is equal to 2, whereas eccentricity of the remaining vertices means all the pendant vertices, it's equal to 3, because the distance between the one pendant vertex to the other pendant vertex, okay, that is equal to 3, because the path is from that vertex either V or u, or then u or v, then to the ui or vj. That is, so the eccentricity is equal to 3. So adding up the values for the function, we get its eccentric weight as equal to r plus s here. Okay, take any complete bipartite graph, okay. We know that complete bipartite graph, the vertex set of it is in the same partite sides are adjacent. That is the definition of a complete bipartite graph here. And if I consider r and s greater than or equal to 2, each partite side have at least 2 vertices, then eccentricity of every vertex eccentricity is 1, and all the pendant vertices have eccentricity 2. So each edge function value will be equal to 1, 1, 1, 1. So when I add up, what will be the value? It is going to be equal to n, the number of edges in that central, in that star graph. Okay. So consider the wheel graph. Wheel graph, we have seen the cycle wheel. Okay. So one cycle and one vertex which is adjacent to all the vertices on the cycle. That is the wheel graph. So the central vertex again has eccentricity 1, as it is adjacent with all the remaining vertices, and the eccentricity of the vertices on the cycles is equal to 2. So substitute these values by taking edges there in the graph. So we are going to get the eccentric weight as equal to n here. Okay. So if the graph is having m edges, okay, then eccentric weight of g is less than or equal to m minus the number of edges in the center of the graph. Center of the graph is the set of all central vertices of the graph. Okay. So central vertices, again, it's their eccentricity is equal to radius of the graph. Okay. So when I consider the induced subgraph on the center of a graph, it is a self-centered graph because all the vertices are having radius equal to radius. So eccentricities are same. So it is self-centered graph. So eccentric weight of that graph is equal to 0. Hence eccentric weight of G matters with the edges of the G which are other than the central, the edges joined by the central vertex. We are getting it as 2 into 2k1, right? It's totally disconnected graph, but its eccentric weight is not equal to m. You can calculate the eccentricities of each of those vertices. Eccentricities of the top vertices 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, right? 3, 3 and 2, 2 here, okay. So the difference when I consider, we are not getting it as equal to m, it will be less than that here. So the converse of it is not true, okay. Now we will consider the two operations here. One is join of two graphs and product of two graphs. So join of two graphs, take two disjoint graphs. The join of those two is obtained by putting them together and joining every vertex of one graph to every vertex of the other graph. That is the join of two graphs here, okay. So vertex set is union of the vertex sets of both the graphs, and edge set is edge set of G1 union edge set of G2 together with all edges which are joined by every vertex of G1 to every vertex of G2. This is how the join graph is obtained. And if G1 and G2 are disjoint non-trivial connected graphs having no full degree vertex, no full degree vertex means if a graph is of order n, number of vertices is n, then if I have a vertex of degree n minus 1 there, then that is called as full degree vertex, okay. So if a graph has no full degree vertices greater than or equal to the G2 will be equal to 1. Similarly, the distance between all the vertices from G2 to G1 will be 1, and the distance between a vertex from one vertex of one graph to the other vertex of the same graph G1 will be equal to 2 here, okay. So it is true for both the graphs here. So when I consider the eccentricities, I am going to get ui vi is equal to 2 and ui vj is equal to 1 here. So the function value is going to be equal to 0 for all uv belonging to the edge set of G1 plus G2, and hence it's going to be equal to 0. Now when there is as a particular case of that, instead of considering G2 as a general graph, I have restricted it to K1 here, okay. So for any graph G whose maximum degree is less than n minus 1, again no full degree vertex, okay. So eccentric weight of G plus K1 is equal to n here, okay. It's a corollary to the previous result because the vertex set of G2 is having only one vertex and that is adjacent with every vertex there in the other graph, okay. So that will be having eccentricity 1, all other vertices in this place will be having eccentricity 2, so the difference is going to be 1 there, okay. So that is equal to n, okay, the number of edges in that graph. Now if G has K is equal to 2 here, so when I consider all the edges here, one way we are getting 0, the other way we are getting 1 here, and when I consider from here to here it is again equal to 0 here. So when I add up all these things, we are going to get K into n minus K here. Okay, so it's a corollary to this, substituting K is equal to 2, that's what we are getting here. Eccentric weight of G, which is isomorphic to Kn minus E, where E is an edge of that graph. Okay, it's going to be 2 into n minus 2 here. Okay, so again, as a corollary to the same result, if G1 is a graph with m vertices, again having, I'll finish, sir. So S full degree vertices and G2 having T full degree vertices, then eccentric weight is weight of the joint graph is given by this formula. So I'll skip the proof here. Here we are considering the product of two graphs. Again take two disjoint graphs G1 and G2. Okay, the vertex set of the product graph is V of G1 cross V of G2, the Cartesian product of the vertex sets, and two vertices are adjacent. If two vertices U1 is equal to V1 in the first graph and U2 is adjacent to V2 in the second graph, or U2 is equal to V2 in the second graph and U1 is adjacent to V1 in the first graph. That is the product graph of two graphs. And one observation here is that the eccentricity of any vertex in the product graph is the sum of the eccentricities of the entries in that pair in their equal to n here. Okay. So what is that graph? It is the sunlet graph we can get. How do we obtain it? Consider the cycle, okay, having the vertices v1, v2 and so on, vn, okay, and then add new vertices equal to the number of vertices there. The pendant edges can be included at each of those vertices, and that is called as the sunlet graph here, okay. And this graph has eccentric weight is equal to n, okay. It can be calculated with by calculating the eccentricities of all the vertices and by taking the edges in that graph. So this is, and again for n is greater than or equal to 4, the positive integer, there exists at least 2 graphs whose eccentricities are equal, okay. So I can consider the graphs star graph and the wheel graph. They are different graphs, okay. They have the same eccentric weight here, okay. Yeah. I am considering the unicyclic graph. A graph which has only one cycle is called as unicyclic graph, and the speciality of unicyclic graphs is that it has equal number of vertices and edges, okay. So for unicyclic graph we have the bound for eccentric weight of graph as m minus p, where Cp is the only cycle in that graph, and again we have considered that's the proof. I'll skip the proof, it's a lengthy proof also. Yeah, I think this is the last result. It is just, we have just introduced the concept of eccentric weight here, and elementary results have been studied. It's much more to be done on this concept, and it is open for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So let us thank the madam for a wonderful lecture. Thank you, Maharaj. Hello. Now the next speaker is Professor S.C. Siraseti. Professor S.C. Siraseti, he is a colleague of mine in my department at Karnataka University, Dharwad. He has completed his BSc, MSc, MPhil, PGDC and PhD from the same university, Karnataka University, Dharwad. Currently, he is a professor of mathematics in the Department of Mathematics, Karnataka University, Dharwad. He has published more than 180 papers, delivered many talks in the various conferences. He is a very energetic man, and he has guided 11 PhD students so far. The main area of his research is numerical analysis, wavelet analysis, fluid dynamics.
Very good evening, one and all. Respected dignitaries of the dash and my lovely student friends, something is visible in front of your eyes. What is that? One is a word wavelet. Is it visible? You must be a curiosity to know what is that. Next one is something lifting scheme. Is it visible? You must be a curiosity to know about that. Third one is what so far you have heard about the different resource persons regarding the fluid flow equations. How to solve those equations? Equations of that kind is in front of your eyes. That is the elastomodynamic lubrication problem. What is our objective? Our objective is to apply the wavelet-based technique for the solution of elastohydrodynamic lubrication problems. Here, 3 kinds of audience. 10 minutes for high learned research scholars. If I take more than that, kindly excuse me. Definitions and terminologies with respect to wavelet for BSc students and its applications. Some selected elastohydrodynamic lubrication application is for the high learned scholars. What is that, dear friends? Wavelets are there. Wavelets are there. Yes or no? Some information is there with respect to what? Your health, with respect to your wealth, with respect to your knowledge. That is there in front of your eyes. So you connect this to Narasimhamurthy sir's talk and then details are there. What is this? So you recall the PGS who has enjoyed and then pronounced local enjoyment and global enjoyment. Local analysis as well as local means what? Local means what? Suppose you are having an interval AB, wavelets are there, but wavelets are not visible. What is the responsibility is to show those things. How to see? We shall see. What is this? Forest. Have you seen forest anywhere? Yes, you have seen forest. Where? Many times you have seen everywhere. Where? Everywhere. Yes or no? What is your object? What is your goal? In my objective is to see by using the mathematical tool entire forest. Entire forest. What is this? In the forest, trees will be there. Yes or no? Yes or no? Forest is nothing but what? Trees must be there. Yes or no? And somebody is interested to see trees. If trees are there means flowers must be there. Yes or no? If flowers are there, honey bees will be there. Yes or no? If honey is there, lovely students must be there. Yes or no? Our objective is to see by using the mathematical tool sometimes forest, sometimes trees, sometimes flowers, sometimes petals, sometimes honey bees, sometimes honey. Yes, sir? Signals. So why you required frequency information? Why you required frequency information? You read that last line. In many cases, the most distinguished information is hidden in frequency content of the signal. In the time domain signal, our objective is to study the frequency content of that signal. That is why you see this, how it looks. It is a signal. In all the time, its pattern is same. That is why we call it as what? Stationary signal. Some of the other professors, they use a linear, non-linear. So, exactly on the same line, I wanted to connect this into that. Some of the functions related, I used to call it as stationary. Some of the functions I used to call it as what? Non-stationary. Is it stationary or non-stationary? Stationary. Why is it stationary? Signal pattern is same. Okay. To study frequency content of that signal, we are having different transformations. So you are all studied Laplace transform, Fourier transform, yes or no? Similarly, Hilbert transform, random transform, and in addition to that, wavelet transform. Here curiosity is to know wavelet transform. Every transformation has advantages as well as disadvantages. Have you heard, have you seen this picture? Have you studied Fourier series? Taylor series is for what? Maclaurin is for what? For local analysis, function approximation with respect to around arbitrary A, Taylor series expansion. Suppose that A is 0, around origin, Maclaurin expansion. Taylor is for what? Around that point. Analysis around that point. So therefore, Taylor is for what? Local analysis. Yes or no? So for global analysis, if you want to see entire forest, is there any tool? Yes, Fourier is there. So that is there in the 19th century, French mathematician Fourier. What he has shown, which function satisfies the Dirichlet's conditions. What are the Dirichlet's conditions? Function must be periodic. Function must be finite number of maxima, minima. Function must have finite number of discontinuities. If it is finite, then such function can represent in its alternate way. What you are all studied, Taylor is for local analysis, Fourier is for global analysis. But situation is not like that. Situation is sometimes local, sometimes global. Is there any tool is there for local as well as global? That is there. Wait. So, in the history of this wavelet, in 1807, Fourier, and 1909, Alfred Haar, who has proved in his thesis and defined Haar basis function, and it has compact support. In 1930, physicists investigated Brownian motion for random signal and concluded Haar basis is better than Fourier transform. In 1930, Littlewood calculated the energy of the function. In 1960, Ronald and Koopman studied simplest element of functions called atom. In 1980, Grossman, physicist, and Morlet, engineer, broadly defined wavelet in terms of quantum mechanics. In 1985, Stephen Mallat defined wavelet for his digital signal work for his PhD thesis. Mayer constructed first non-trivial wavelet. In 1988, Ingrid Dabachi used Mallat for constructed approximation. In mathematical analysis, entire mathematics community is using wavelets for function analysis as well as approximation. And in engineering applications, signal processing, image processing, video processing, successfully using the wavelets. And in industry also, fingerprint detection, successfully using for other applications in almost all engineering branches, wavelets. Here, two domains for signal representation. Function representation, two important domains. One is a signal domain, your f of t. Another one is transform domain. And then here in the transformation, we can make use of the basis functions, and which we call it as a projection space. Different projection space leads to different signal representations. which we call it as multi-resolution analysis. Here, decomposition signal in terms of frequency components, powerful and computationally convenient, linear, invertible, makes frequency modulation easy, good for stationary signals. Which one? Fourier. You see here, Fourier transform decomposes the signal. Is it stationary or non-stationary signal? Non-stationary, see here. Is it stationary or non-stationary? Function information, signal, solution of the differential equation is non-stationary. Is it stationary or non-stationary? So how come the spectrums of two entire different signals look very much alike? Once again, please note that Fourier transform gives frequency components. Existing signal, nothing more, nothing less. It is stationary. Almost all biological signals, you see here, electrical activity of heart, electrical activity of brain, and electric activity of other biological parts of your beautiful body are what? Non-stationary signals. Why to study both time and frequency analysis? Transient signal information resides in different bands of time and frequency domain. Here, have you heard about Heisenberg uncertainty principle? Heisenberg uncertainty principle defined in quantum physics and is applicable to signal processing problems as well. Position of particle cannot be determined. Cannot be determined. Listen here. Time and frequency contents of signal cannot be obtained simultaneously. Is there any tool? Yes, tool is there, that is short time Fourier, Maclaurin, Fourier, and then short time Fourier. Now, short time Fourier is for what? To study the non-stationary signals. This also has a drawback. What is that drawback? Let us see. In this short time Fourier transform, here we are using the window function instead of this. In this window function, listen here. In windowed Fourier transform, in short time Fourier transform, we are using the window function. So see here, if you use narrow window, it gives good time resolution, but poor frequency resolution. Your window is narrow, but poor frequency resolution. See here. Suppose drawback. This is the serious advantage and disadvantage of the windowed Fourier transform. But your question is what kind of window to use? Answer is wavelet. Possible solution is what? Wavelet. Wavelet. Have you seen anywhere? This itself is wavelet. How it looks? How we can denote? Psi of t. Why it is popular? Because a family built by dilation property as well as translation property. Not only psi of t. This mother function built by dilation as well as translation. What it is? It is dilation. It is your... No sound there? Yes. What it is? What our Honorable Professor Rangarajan sir said, your speech signals are non-stationary. So some dilation and translations are there. So if you want to dilate, simply replace T by T by 2, T by 4. And if you want to translate, you replace that T by T minus B. So psi of T minus 20, T minus 40. Here, listen here, comparisons of the your earlier Fourier and our beautiful wavelet transform. So in case of Fourier advantages, in case of non-stationary transfer, I have chosen here wavelet for the solution of electroaerodynamic lubrication problems. Here, this is the comparative visualization here. So here, this is the Fourier transform, and then the short time Fourier transform, and wavelet transform is best tool for the local as well as multi-level representation, which we call it as multi-resolution analysis. Wavelets are wave-like oscillatory signals of finite bandwidth both in time and frequency. Wavelets are basis functions of space with certain properties. So these are the examples of wavelets. It is a Dabachi wavelet. Wavelet packets. Here, this is the wavelet transform. So these are the examples of wavelets, wavelets, Gabor wavelets, Legare wavelet. So here can categorize the wavelets. Some old wavelets in 1910, Haar function, Gabor function, Morlet, Shannon function, and then Mexican has your own name wavelet. Suppose for example, Mallikarjun Patil sir wavelet. And then suppose Narahari sir, Narahari wavelet. That lifting scheme successfully I utilized in this for solving the electroaerodynamic lubrication problems. I wanted to go directly there. So many applications are there for change detection, compression, feature extraction, image enhancement, noise reduction, diagnostics, and then solution of differential equations, partially, ODE, PD, etc., analysis of fractals, system identification, in applications in industry also, power systems, in medical, everywhere you name, physical science, social science, in computational science, any engineering, science and engineering branches, it has applications. If you have a power, you can apply. If a power is there, then only this bulb will glow. Then only you are able to apply wavelet. Everywhere you name can apply wavelet. In oil industry, everywhere. In geophysics, biomedical engineering, finance, everywhere it has. What is there? This itself is there. This itself is there. Suppose you are having here one function. These hidden informations are there. We require to see that, can see. How? By using that waveform. So how that works? So this is your solution, some noisy solution. You can decompose approximation and details. Again this approximation and details. This approximation, again approximation and details. We decompose, at the end we are having all the details. Only one approximate value. Only one approximate value. Rest are the details. Can see the details of that particular signal. Here, this is approximation details of the electrical signal. So I wanted to show you. So this is the polyphase matrix. What we have designed the lifting scheme, there we have used this polyphase matrix. So this is our a tool of 4 lifting steps are required to predict 2 update steps to perform. This is Koipan-Dabachi FIVE wavelet. This is lifting factorization leads to following sequence of filtering steps. So this is with respect to Koipan CDF, Dabachi and FIVE. And it has some beautiful advantages. and it has perfect reconstruction, and it speeds up, and it has non-linearities. Discretized matrix order must be 1. Then we say that it is well conditioned. Otherwise it is ill conditioned. Suppose if it is ill conditioned, which doesn't converge the solution. If you want to make it as well conditioned, we can go for the multigrid techniques, we can go for the algebraic multigrid techniques, we can go for the wavelet-based algebraic multigrid methods, and we can go for the advanced method is lifting scheme. What this lifting scheme does, in this of the restriction operator, in finer to go coarser, finer is nothing but what? Suppose your interval width is 0.00001. Your interval width is what? 0.001. Is 0 to 1, by taking the step length 0.001, you divide, its matrix size is 1000 cross 1000. Matrix size is 1000 cross 1000. In such type of cases, usually it leads as a ill conditioned system. If you want to make it as a well conditioned system, you convert the 1000 cross 1000 into, by using that above algorithm, make it as 2 cross 2. 1000 cross 1000 to 2 cross 2. At the stage of 2 cross 2, we are having the different kinds of thresholding techniques based on the wavelet filterings apply there, and then again reconstruct finer to cycle. So that is the beauty of wavelet based technique in lifting scheme. That is there. For this problem, this technique, this lifting scheme we have successfully used due to time constraint. This is HAR. In HAR we are having the high pass and low pass filters. High pass and low pass filters, prolongation and restriction operators we designed with the help of lifting scheme, and we use. And then next, in the Dabachi also we have the, this is HAR based, and in Dabachi also we are having the high pass and low pass filters. By using the high pass and low pass filters, can design the lifting scheme we have designed and then successfully used for solving the elastoidal lubrication problems. In spline wavelets, which we call it as bi-orthogonal wavelets. In bi-orthogonal wavelets also we are having the high pass and low pass filter coefficients. High pass is for the approximation, low pass is for the details. So we are having in bi-orthogonal also filter coefficients. By using those filters, we designed the decomposition, prolongation and restriction operators, and then these operators we have used for the simple one nonlinear ODE, and then we have tested and tabulated the solution here, approximation and details. Here you see the beauty. Yes, suppose for example 128 cross HAR wavelet based lifting scheme, and then it gives the 10 raised to minus 3 here. This is total time. It takes this much of seconds, and then you bi-orthogonal lifting scheme. You see here bi-orthogonal based lifting scheme converges fast film thickness, and this is the residual of the technique. So for example here FDM took 40 iterations and then other methods, but bi-orthogonal wavelet based lifting scheme takes only 30 iterations to it has given the error with 0. See here, this is FDM for 256 cross, it has taken 68 iterations for this much of accuracy. In bi-orthogonal lifting schemes, 59 iterations for 10 raised to minus 11 accuracy, and similarly HAR wavelet and then Dabachi wavelet based lifting schemes. And then this is for the point contact problem, that is line contact, and this is point contact problem. Similarly in point contact, it is a very difficult, highly non-linear partial differential equation. This is the pressure distribution, and this is the film thickness, and this is the comparative study for the both the problems, and problem 2 and problem 3. And this is the running time. You have to see HAR wavelet based lifting scheme has taken the total time in seconds 5.2 times to convert the solution, and then here bi-orthogonal lifting scheme has taken the only 5.79, and then other FEA scheme, full approximation schemes, it has taken L1 seconds to convert the solution. The conclusion is bi-orthogonal wavelet based lifting scheme is very good. Thank you very much for your patient hearing.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Okay, due to shortage of time, okay, we'll conclude this. I thank Professor Sirasati for...
Sir.
At the outset, I thank team leader Mallikarjun Patil sir, PG Department of Mathematics, Tumkur University, for giving a big hand. Already you have given a short hand, so you give him a big hand. Next, wholeheartedly, I thank Chandrale madam for giving a very, very big hand. Professor Boregowda sir is not here, but Narahari sir is here. So all of you give him a big, big hand. Thank you very much for all his team leaders for making such a wonderful international conference in hybrid mode. And then at the outset, I thank all my good friends, Rangarajan sir and Narsimurthy sir, and then Kiran sir, and then Veena madam. So all of you give her a big hand because she has given a big sari for my wife. So all of you give her a big hand. Why I am telling you, I wanted to say it is a very happiest moment. I was in tension. Veena madam has released my tension through my wife. That is why this big thanks. Because in unknown place, there is no one.
With this, we come to the end of today's sessions, other than paper presentations. And the paper presentations are going to happen right now. So those UG and PG students who are interested to stay back can stay back for the paper presentations. And there are some announcements also to be made. So after the announcement, if you are not willing to stay back, you can leave and come tomorrow. Okay? So yeah, the announcements are these. First of all, tomorrow morning, we begin with 2 parallel sessions. One session will be by Professor Venkatesh and Professor Dafiq. That will be done online. And there is one more session by Dr. Mahesh Narayana, and that again is going to be done online. And these sessions are going to happen in parallel. And all these 3 sessions are going to be online sessions, and they are going to start at 8:30. We will share with you the link of the sessions, and you can join the sessions. And the offline sessions are going to start at 9:45. So all the students, UG, PG students, and of course all the research scholars and all the delegates, whoever is attending the conference offline shall be in this place at 9:45 a.m. tomorrow morning. And particularly, the whole day we will have parallel sessions. One session will happen in this particular place, which is Sir M. Vishweshwarya Auditorium, and the other session is going to happen in MSc Physics Seminar Hall, which is in the MSc Physics Seminar Hall. And all the second year MSc students and all the BSc students shall attend the sessions here. Am I clear? Right. And the research scholars and delegates, depending on the sessions, whichever interests you, you can choose the session and attend the sessions accordingly. And the sessions will go on as usual. And towards the end of the day, tomorrow, I think by 3:30, 3 o'clock if I'm right. Yeah, I think you all have got the program schedule. You can refer to that. So according to that, we will have a session by Professor Ismail Nasik Angul from Turkey, and that is going to be an online session. And followed by him, there is one more session by Dr. Yeah, the other session by Shiv Shankar Das from Banaras Hindu University. Those two will be online sessions, and that will happen towards the end of the day at 3 p.m. And for those sessions, all of you will come back to this particular place. Okay, so I repeat, morning online sessions will happen. You can attend from wherever you want. There's no problem at all. The offline sessions are going to start at 9:45. First year MSc students should go to MSc Physics Seminar Hall, and second year MSc students and BSc students shall come to this hall and attend the offline sessions. Till 3 we'll have parallel sessions, and after 3 to 4 it will only be one session. Matlab, the 2 sessions will happen one after the other, and that will happen in this particular place. And just after those sessions we'll have the valedictory session. That is how the plans are. So please attend the sessions and make the best out of the whole thing. Thank you so much. Now I request Chandrali Vaishya Madam to tell you all as to who are going to.
So, offline paper presentation sessions are there in 3 different places. One is here, one is in the room number 210 and 211. So, I will read out the name and the number. In this room, B7, Husna V, B10, Nagarjun V, B11, Ranganath, MS, D6 to D6, Pavan Kumar, D7, Nasir Ahmed, D9, Hema S, D10, Pooja MN, D12, Pavitra, D13, Sushma. Okay, in this room. And if I miss any name, you can give me, because this is prepared quite a long time back. And in the room number 110, Nagendra Ma, Sachin, that means D14, D16, D26, Nihal, D42, Sangoli, D43, P.I. Kulkarni, D44, G.K. Ramesh, D45, V.R. Pala, D46, Batsala, D110, Yashwant, what is this? Satish S. And Dr. Siddharamu. They will be having paper presentation in room number 211. Yeah. Some number may be missing, some name may be missing. You can just give here. We will enter. You want to present on offline, right? Praveen, your graph, what is your cosmology? Then you should go to this room. Okay? 211. Nasimurthy sir will be there. Okay? 211. You can ask them to enter. It is Husna. Nagarjun. Nasir Ahmed. It is grabbed here. In some model. Okay, but thing is that it is no problem. You can go to this room and tell to include your name. Okay. It is 211. Okay.
ಏಕೆ ಇನ್ನ ಇಲ್ಲಪ್ಪ ಅದೇ ಪಿಕ್ಚರ್ ಬಾಕಿ ಹೈ
Your name is not called, right?
ಅದಕ್ಕೆ
So you can be here. In this room.
ಅವರು ಪ್ರಿಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ
You write down.
ಎಷ್ಟು ಕೊಡೋದಿಲ್ಲ ನೀವೇನು ಕುತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ರೆಕಾರ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ಆಪ್ಷನ್ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ
ಇದರಲ್ಲೇನಾ ಅದು ನಾವು ಅದು ಬಾಕ್ಸ್ ಹಾಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ರೆಕಾರ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ಆಪ್ಷನ್ ಬರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ ಇದು
ಅಪ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್ ಹಾಕಿದ್ರೆ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ ನಿಮ್ದಿದೆ ಅದ್ರಲ್ಲ ನಂದು
ಹಿಂಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಾಗ ನನಗೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ
So all the paper presenter, please load your paper there in the laptop.
ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟೇಷನ್ ಇದೆ ಸರ್ ಅವ್ರು ಬರಬೇಕು ಸರ್ ಅದು ಆಪ್ರೇಟರ್ ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾರು ಆದರೆ ನಾವು ಇದು ನಮ್ಮದು ಅಂದರೆ ಇದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಲೈವ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ನೀವು ಅಲ್ಲಕ್ಕೆ ಬರಲ್ಲ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಅಲ್ಲಕ್ಕೇ ಬೇಕಿರೋದು
In this room.
ಅಲ್ಲ ತೊಂದರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬರೀ ಪೆಂಡ್ರೈವ್ ಹಾಕೊಳ್ಳಂದ್ರೆ ಹಾಕೊಳ್ಳಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬರಲ್ಲ ಡಿಸ್ಪ್ಲೇಗೆ ಬರಲ್ಲ ಹೌದು, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಅದು ಆಪರೇಟರ್ ಇಲ್ಲ.